It's saying we're live. Let's wait and see how much lag there is to YouTube. 14 seconds so far.
You're up.
And there we go. And I've got no... There we go. Volume's all fine. Good evening, people. All 5 of you, including... No, 6 of you, including me. How are we all tonight? Hope you're good, Gary. Yeah, good connection. Yeah, it's a bit of a lag between YouTube and StreamYard as always. You can't odds that. Gary, good evening, mate. Been a while.
Gary and Gary.
Well, what a boring day. Well, we got 14 in. Numbers are going up already. Well, before we get into the budget shit, I'm going to talk about the information that was released yesterday at the court case from the Southport murders. Now, there seems to be a lot going on around this now. Paulette, good evening, my darling. Jenny, good evening, sweetie. Marines, Karen, good evening. Oh, everybody's in early tonight. Now, yeah, around the murder of the 3 young girls. Don't forget attempted murder of others as well. Stuart, good evening, mate. Now, it seems strange. Now, my mind is when that happened, the police came out with a statement at the time. Now, bear in mind, the first statement was made very, very soon afterwards, where they hadn't done a lot of investigating. Good evening, Stitch. And they described him as a Christian English lad. Taffy, good evening. This is before they even released officially that he wasn't white English. But they did say an English Christian. No connections to terrorism. Now, they did raid his house. And they probably done that within a day. Once they found out who he was, you can guarantee they were in there within a day. And with what they said they found, it would have been quite easy to surmise that he was connected somehow, in some form, to terrorism and Islam. Now, the fact that he had what could be classed as a weapon of mass destruction, with the rising, I mean, that is a very, very deadly substance. Very deadly. And apparently, it's unconfirmed, but somebody did say he had the equipment to make it. That I don't know, but apparently he did have it. So literally, within a couple of days, the police would have had this information in front of them. But on their continuing statements, they still professed that he was a white Christian English lad. Good evening, Tony. Why? Now, I've got my own opinions. Did they want people to kick off? Why did they cover it up? Now, with what happened afterwards, as we know, there was incidents up and down the country, including violent ones and non-violent, I might add. Yeah, I think they would have had it same day, Stuart, to be honest. Good evening, Matt. But Why have they covered it up? Why have they not said anything? Did they want the trouble? Now, with people that were arrested around, I'll call them the troubles. I won't call them riots. They were troubles. You know, a riot involves a lot more people than there was at these little kickoffs. But what happened around them with Starmer instructing the justice system and the police to grab these people that were identified, lock them up with no bail, fast track them through court, and ultimately throw a lot of them in prison for quite some time. Now, I will admit, quite openly, there are some there with what I saw them doing on the videos. Good evening, Hunter. With what I saw them doing on the videos, absolutely, they did deserve to be locked up. They did put lives at risk, and they were quite violent. You know, you shouldn't be allowed to get away with that, no matter what side of the fence you're on any of the issues going on in this country at the moment. But the ones were locked up for carrying a sign, posting stuff on Facebook, Twitter, one or two posted videos on YouTube. I believe they got took down. Now, some of those have ended up in prison, with the courts convicting them of spreading racial hatred and misinformation. Now, the racial hatred bit, yeah, you could, with some of the things that I saw posted, you could call that having a go at race. But a lot of them weren't. A lot of them weren't. Yet they still ended up in prison for misinformation. Now, surely, with what's been released today and the pressures Starmer put on the justice system and the police to facilitate all this, would that make them complicit in the same form of misinformation? They have been doing exactly what they fucking accused these people of doing. Now, I find that very, very disturbing. Very disturbing. Now, when you take that into account, and then, hang on, let's get this right here. And then you see and hear this.
To remind the House that the following horrendous, terrible incident in Southport on the 29th of July, a suspect is awaiting trial, having been charged with multiple offences. That means the House of Judice resolution is engaged and references should not be made to the case. I know that all honourable members.
Now, they are silencing the MPs in the House. They're not allowed to discuss it. They're not allowed to debate it. Why is that? The House is supposed to be a place where they can have open debate. As Starmer ordered Mr. Speaker to bring this up and say, you're not allowed to talk about it. This has come from the top. This has come from Starmer and Yvette Cooper. This smacks of one big fucking cover-up. This is what we're facing, people. That is exactly the type of thing that a communist government does. We've seen Russia do it for many years. We've seen China do it for many years. And now we've got this, our own corrupt communist socialist government doing exactly the same here. And he had the fucking cheek yesterday to say, judge me in 5 years' time. That dude needs to be fucking gone as soon as possible. That, it just smacks of a cover-up. Now, the other thing was mainstream media and the police and the government with what they've been doing and saying around this. Evening, Loafer. Now, that just proves that Tommy Robinson was right in the video, silenced. He said this is how they operate, and it's been proved with what they've done over this. Yes, he wasn't locked up because of the contents of the video. He was locked up because he was told not to show it. He was locked up for contempt. But that video, anybody that's watched it, points out exactly what has happened now in this case, where they've colluded to cover it up. Not happy at all from here. You know, a lot of this is my opinion. A lot of it is evidence there for everybody to see. Now, if you haven't watched Tommy's video, just because you don't like him, whatever, do watch it. It's freely available on Twitter. Elon Musk refused to censor it. Dr. Kersey, good evening. It's available on Twitter, as I say, because Elon was having none of it. He's left it up. There is a copy on, was it Rumble, I think?
What you told me.
Yeah. But Twitter one is best. But I mean, even Urban Scoop haven't got it on their website anymore. So, you know, Twitter, X, whatever it's fucking called now. It's about the only place you can go and find it. Failing that, email me and I'll tell you where you can find it. But if you haven't watched it, it's well worth a watch. It's eye-opening and it will make you angry. There's also a statement that Tommy wrote. Marty Bladborough's got it up on his channel, I think. It's also on his Facebook, and several others have posted it as well, pointing out where in the original case where they went for the silencing of him, how they fiddled it, how they got it through, how they got the verdict. And that again is, it will make you angry and it's eye-opening. Yep, that's the problem, Taffy. We can't. The only people that can do anything about this government is the government itself and the others in the House. They are the only ones that can bring him down. The public could if they all got together, but they won't. They, over the last few years, the previous government and this one is continuing it, have created that divide that they've just split everybody up, where people will not stand together for the common good. And when you look at today's budget, now I've got all that out of the way, if you look at the outline, I'll call it, of today's budget, it will cause a big social divide. A big social divide. Now, it was quite a boring one, to be honest. And yeah, for, mind you, they still haven't defined properly what a working man is yet. So bear that in mind. But they did what they said. For the lonely little man in the street, on one hand, they've said your national insurance won't go up, nor will your income tax. your threshold on what you pay when you start paying tax is frozen again. So what that means is the threshold hasn't gone up, which means if your wages go up and go up by a certain amount, or you get a better job with better wages, you will be clicked up into a higher tax bracket, which means you pay more. Now, as for wages going up, or even having a job, by raising the employer's national insurance, there's going to be a lot of people lose their jobs. There's going to be a lot of businesses that are going to collapse. They have given a little bit back. I don't quite know how the ins and outs of it work. The lovely Mrs. W does. Obviously, that was her profession, was sorting out people's wages, tax, etc. And she assures me that none of them are going to be any better off. The only people that are going to make out of this, if businesses keep going, is the tax man, the government. Good evening, Missy. Yeah, exactly, Lofa. The small businesses are struggling as it is, and this is going to make it even worse for them. Yes, Gary, the inheritance tax, that's always been a sticky point with me, to be honest, because whatever you get left by a parent, a grandparent, whether it be cash, whether it be a property, they've already paid tax on that money. They've already paid tax on that property, probably several times over, and they tax it again. Basically, it's a tax on your parent, your grandparent for fucking dying. You're going to die, you want to leave something for your kids, you've got to pay the tax on it, or the kids have got to out of your estate. And I find that absolutely disgusting. You know, you're paying 2-3 times tax on something that's already been taxed right at the beginning. I find that very annoying. Now again, pensions and pensioners. They proudly stood up and said, oh, the pensions will go up by £400 a year. Great. But let's put that into perspective, shall we? Those arseholes get nearly £400 a fucking day just for turning up in Parliament and sitting in Parliament. That puts that £400 pension rise into perspective. For some pensioners, it will bump them up the tax level. So they're going to pay more tax on their pensions. Minimum wage, £12.21 an hour. What fucking good is that to somebody? You're working for £12.21 an hour. You ain't going to pay a mortgage. You'll be lucky to cover your rent and your fucking bills with that. £10 an hour for 18 to 20-year-olds. You know? And what we got? Oh, that was another one, yeah. Anybody that's paying back the DWP, overpayments, whatever, you're in debt to the DWP, they're going to cut down the amount you pay back each month from 25% to 15%. So you'll pay back a smaller amount. They said that would leave more money in your pocket. Now, can anybody in the chat tell me what they think they've done with that? Why have they done that? Using the excuse, you'll be left with more in your pocket. Good evening, Serality. Have a think on that one, and we'll come back to it once we've got a few answers in, if we get any. One nice one, 50% increase on your duty if you fly in a private jet. Absolutely wonderful. It should be 400%. If you want to go with the eco solution. But it's nice to see them getting hammered for a change. But there again,
face it, that's the same as the bus fares have gone up.
Yeah. I'll get to that in a minute.
Sorry.
See, I've lost where I am now.
50% on planes.
Yeah. I mean, if you can afford to charter a private jet, then you can afford to pay it, as far as I'm concerned. But let's see how many politicians fly around the world now to various meetings and gatherings in private jets. See how much they're spending on them. Keep an eye on that one. Stitch says to try and win the people over. Not in my mind, Stitch. Not in my mind. Yes, reality. Pub offer pence a draft beer, a pint of draft beer. But again, that's going to hit businesses. Think of all these little artisan breweries that only sell in bottles. How many of them is that going to affect? Their beer's still going to be high. People are going to stop drinking theirs and drink the draft beer because it's a penny cheaper. They'll be exempt or have a loophole to not pay it. If you mean the repayment to DWP, Taffy, no. I can tell you now, that drop in the percentage that people will be expected to pay back on loans or overpayment, in my opinion, is designed to keep you in debt for longer and keep you reliant on the state for longer. Nothing to do with leaving you more in your pocket. It's to keep you in debt. No MP in planes. Yeah, that won't stop them, Taffy. They don't pay for it. We do. You know, they keep saying they're calling things government funded. They're not. It's government funded means it's the taxpayer funded. Yeah, the bus fare. I didn't think about it till Mrs. W pointed it out to me earlier, actually. The bus fare cap going up from £2 to £3. But that isn't actually just going to go up £1, is it? Because don't forget, if you get a bus somewhere, 9 times out of 10, you've got to get a bus back. So that's actually £2 more for your journeys. For your journeys, yeah, a day. If you're going backwards and forwards to work on the bus, you're going to pay £2 more, not £1. And I didn't even think about that. Mrs. W pointed out to me when we were talking about all this after the budget. Yeah, but there ain't going to be enough jobs, Missy. A lot of this investment that they said that they brought into the country through that meeting, it's all just promises. They've been promised. People have told them they're going to invest in this country. With what they've done today and things they've got in place and that they plan, people won't make those investments. And people certainly won't invest in small businesses. Two peanuts just to keep warm. Exactly, Missy. Or do some vital shopping. One saving grace, and this was one that I'd been hoping they wasn't going to do. Somebody said it was in the pipeline, but they froze the duty on fuel. Now that would have been a biggie. If they'd have banned that up, that would have a big knock-on effect in industry, supplies, prices in the shops, prices of everything, because this country is fuel driven. Cars, lorries, even the buses, most of those are diesel. So, that one, yes, that will help. What was the duty on fags and drink? The only one they mentioned, Taffy, was the penny drop on draft. Cigarettes, I believe, well, they said specifically hand rolling tobacco, 10% rise. No, that's they've actually capped that, Stuart, with the fuel duty for, I think it was at least 2 years. They said they wouldn't put that up. But we know they've changed their minds so many bloody times since they've been in power. They could be doing anything. You don't know. They could change laws. They could change acts, which could affect all of this. What else have we got that really affects the normal working man as we take to be a working man? Scrapping of the non-dom status. Now that to me is brilliant. That means if they want to come here and live here for a certain amount of time, they're taxed in this country. They don't get away with that anymore. Remember Sunak's missus was at that shit, wasn't she? Saving millions. Yeah, some will, Stuart. Some will. This one, missus was a non-dom. She's brutal with a rolling pin. Fair enough, loafer. We won't go into your sexual habits tonight. Now another one. They agreed loads and loads of help for the building sector, even the small builders. Now they're saying so many affordable homes. Now you go around and look at any building site if you've got one going in your area. And there is so many that will be allocated as starter homes. There are so many that are luxury homes. And some are earmarked for social housing. Absolutely fine. We do need more social housing. But guess who's at the top of the list for social housing? And they've already said this. It's not the English. You know the group I mean, and they are at the top of the list on most housing lists. So if you think you're going to get one, think again. I'm actually glad we gave up, Stuart. I really am. It's, mind you, it ain't done a lot for my health, but it does save. I didn't realise just how much, even buying cheap baccy, I didn't realise how much it would save, to be honest. Quite a few million. Good evening, Flyby. For filling in potholes. We're going to fill 1 million potholes a year. Great. Well, that's a little 1 mile section from the road out here to Birmingham. 1 million potholes, that one will be done. Fuck the rest of you. They're spending a lot more again now on the railways. They've agreed to finish off certain sections of the HS2. They're putting money into that. But again, with the prices they charge on the rail nowadays, people just ain't going to use it. It ain't going to get used. They're changing the right to buy. But, you know, most people, average Joe, can't afford to take out a mortgage now. And with the rise in the, what do you call it, tax? Fucking hell, mine's going blank tonight. I didn't sleep last night at all. Not super fucking, what do you call it? A higher bracket one, darling. upper levels.
Higher bracket of what?
Tax.
Income tax?
Yeah,
Income tax.
income tax.
Still income tax, it's just a higher bracket.
The rates that they've changed on that. A lot of landlords now that rent properties are going to want to offload them because they're going to lose out eventually. They've got to pay more tax on the money they earn on them. How quick they're going to bring it in where they pay the what's the name, gains tax, capital gains tax on it if they sell a property. They have kind of looked after the normal man in the street with this budget, but there are ways that they can claw it back. Oh, Serco will be absolutely loafer. They're already filling the hotels up again and looking for properties to house them. The one that caught fire here in Tamworth, that's just been refurbished to quite a high standard. I think it was a Holiday Inn because they thought they were going back to taking in the paying public. How wrong were they when 3 buses of immigrants turned up the other day? Soon filled that one back up. Now the NHS, what was it he promised? The first injection to 22.6 billion towards the NHS, saying we want to bring back the NHS into your local areas rather than the big hospitals. Well, we've seen how that works, and the best way to get that working is get rid of the fucking GP secretaries. Because before you can even see a GP, you've got to get past them. And they're like fucking jailers. They lock the door in your face every fucking time. Now, I had first-hand knowledge of this, and I passed it on to a doctor the other day. On Monday, I had a telephone call appointment booked with my GP, or a GP from the surgery. It's a group practice. Good evening, Moo. And we were discussing a few things because I need some paperwork and I also need to chase some stuff up for me. And we got talking about face-to-face appointments because I was complaining about the way the GP surgery worked there. Now, she was saying that we've opened up a lot more face-to-face appointments. To which I said, would you kindly go and tell your receptionists that then? Good evening, Bailey. I said, because I tried to book one last Thursday and I was told I couldn't get one for 3 weeks. Now, this is to be seen to be getting a prescription that a consultant has told me I need. Oh, she said, that's surprising. I said, no, it isn't. Might be surprising to you, but it's not surprising to us members of the public out here because that's what we hear every fucking time we ring up. So that's bullshit, what they're saying. They're going to spend some of these billions on new scanners. So I would probably surmise that's CT scan, stuff like that. Well, you can't put them out in the community. There are 1 or 2 mobile ones out there, but most of them are usually parked in hospital car parks.
Or Sainsbury's.
Or Sainsbury's car park. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have been in supermarket car parks, haven't they?
Well, the one to check for breast cancer, the mammary things, that they tend to be in supermarket car
Lumps
parks.
in your tits. But and they put, I think it was so many million aside to immediately try and get the waiting list down. Well, quite how that's going to work, I don't know, because it's not the money that is fucking up the NHS. It's where the money is going. Now, they employed, was it 600 diversity and inclusion managers on 60 to 80 grand a year? What good they do, I don't know. Because appointing someone in a position by the colour of their skin or their race is an absolute waste of time. We've said it many a time. It doesn't matter what colour your skin. It doesn't matter what your fucking race. If you're the right person for the job, then you should get the job. You should not be getting a job based on race or colour. But the NHS has been wasting money for years, especially on managers and shit like that. We know this. I've said it over and over again. That's where the NHS has gone wrong. Plus, it wasn't geared up for the extra influx of people into this country. The employer allowance on tax and shit has doubled. They said it will enable a normal sized company to take on 4 more employees that they will charge them more national insurance for. So, work that one out. Anything else I've got on this? I mean, there was a lot more they went on, but to be honest, I didn't take a lot of notice of it because it was all what I call business gobbledygook, high finance shit and stuff like that.
And it didn't make sense.
And it certainly didn't make sense. You're absolutely right. It made no fucking sense to me whatsoever. They went on about honouring the veterans, but never said what they're going to do to help any of them. The veterans that need help, the homeless veterans, the veterans that are suffering from mental health issues. Not a word. But they did pledge £1 million to educate people on the Holocaust. Who are they going to educate on the Holocaust? We know what happened. We know the history of it. Those that don't are the ones that absolutely deny it, and they don't want to know about it because of their religion. So there's £1 million down the drain. He said, we will send another 2 billion to the Ukraine. Why? NATO is already supporting them. We pay the amount through NATO and the UN, whatever, that everybody else is paying. Why should we pay more? Initially, they said that was a loan. Who's going to pay it back? We're going to gain nothing by that, other than it's another 2 billion going out of this country that we'll never fucking see again. It doesn't benefit us in any way, shape, or form. And he promised that every year until the war finishes. How many years has that war been going on and off? You know, people are talking about the nukes now. Iran is one step away from having a nuclear weapon. North Korea's involved. We know they've been firing fucking stuff over China, whether it's been armed or not. We don't know, but you never know what that Dum Chong fucking Rongan, whatever his name is, has got in his arsenal.
Ping pong.
Missy, that is the only way that anything's other going to get solved in this country while this government's in power, I'm afraid to say. But as I said, the people won't stand together to do it. They won't stand together and go up against the government. Unfortunately, ding dong ditch. Yeah, John Wrong, and I don't know what his fucking name was. You know, they always, to me, they always sound like somebody's dropped a load of cutlery on the stone floor. Ding, bang, bong, you know. Rob, good evening, mate.
Ying Tong Tiddle I Poke.
Yeah, Ying Tong Tiddle I fucking slant I get. But yeah, that's my take on the budget today. Yeah, I shouldn't laugh either. Flyby plays havoc with my fucking chest. But yeah, basically, it's like we said, and as we knew it would be. Yes, he's given a bit, or she's given a bit, and taken it back with the other hand, basically. They kept going on about the warm home incentive. I do believe that includes the heat pumps. Well, we already know the only thing they're going to do is suck electricity. And they won't make your home any warmer unless you use more and more electricity than you're using now. But he did. Oh, that was the other one. Yes, there was a couple of other things. Now talking about that. Electric vehicles. They're going to facilitate and back further use of more and more electric vehicles. They're going to invest in electric vehicles. Why? Most major manufacturers now are actually shutting down plants and are not building them because they're not selling them. China built millions of the bloody things thinking they were going to swamp the market with them. They're all sat in fields rotting. Nobody wants them. And because of that now, to penalise the West, China are restricting how many of the minerals and bits and pieces that manufacturing in the West needs to build EVs. So no investment needed there. Energy, electric. They started GB, what was it, GB Energy? But the headquarters in Aberdeen in Scotland. The person they put in charge of it, the CEO, has openly said he ain't fucking working in Scotland. He doesn't want to work in Scotland. Beat that one. As they say, that concludes the news for tonight. Yeah. EVs, we said they wouldn't work. The infrastructure ain't there. If everybody that owns an EV at the moment, just with the amount that are in the country, if everybody plugged them in at the same time, walked in the house and turned the kettle on, the grid would go into fucking meltdown. Absolutely. Yeah, we do, Loafer. Yeah, higher than the ones that are actually selling us the shit. Oh, I take some putting up with, Rob. Believe me, mate. I mean, the heat pumps, for a start, they won't be able to afford to fit them to council houses, social housing. That ain't never going to happen. They've said that they are passing more power on to local councils. They did mention two, one of which was Birmingham. Obviously, they were Labour-held ones. But with the way they're going, that will change next May with the local elections. Simply because Labour are going to be gone. They're going to get absolutely fucking mullered, I think. In fact, I'll go as far as predict it. Next May, if Labour haven't been pulled down out of government, the next local elections, they will get absolutely bollocksed. they will get mullered. Yeah, they did loafer over a ridiculous thing. It was because of compensation payout, but they hung it out and argued the toss in court. And of course, the money went up and up and up and up, and they didn't have enough to pay it. Putting a house. You know the cost of putting a house built is 72. Yes, Rob, that's what I mean. I mean, this place here, I mean, some of the walls are solid 9-inch block. There's no insulation. There's no cavity. It'd be absolutely pointless. I mean, this place is freezing in the winter. But on the other hand, it's like a fucking sauna in the summer. So it's it's a job to stay cool in it in the summer. Hence, you've probably seen before all the... Oh, I can't do it that way. The fans up there. On even a warm day, we need the fans, which soaks up electricity, obviously. Lads turning up at 8 a.m. But yeah, so some of the old houses, I don't think you could even bring up to code, no matter how much you threw at them, Rob. And if you look at the state of some of the new builds that they're doing to the new codes, you know, the building, they're appalling. They're appalling. There's no care taken over the building of them. There's no craftsmanship in them because they're getting cheap labour in to do them. You know, some of the new builds I've seen, I wouldn't even think they've seen a fucking spirit level since the day they started building the bastards. Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to live in a stone cottage. No cavity in that. Yeah, it's, you know, and then him turning around and saying, give me 5 years. No. Absolutely not. I mean, if you look at most of their plans are for 10 years. Like the NHS, that's a 10-year plan. So they obviously think they're going to get in the next term. You're going to have to do something pretty spectacular to get people to even think about voting for them in 5 years' time.
I don't even think it's that. I think they know damn well they can't do anything.
Baron.
I know they can't do. They know they can't do anything in 4 or 5, so they make it a 10-year plan, so they can always go, well, it's not done yet.
Yeah. I mean, they've done so many U-turns, and then the biggest problem is the amount of corruption that has been exposed around them just in the last 3 months or so. Now, that tells you the intention with them to start with. And it's still being exposed. I mean, this with the Southport bollocks now, with they're covering that up, not being able to talk about it. I mean, how long before people are going to get a knock on the door for just talking about it? If the police hear you talking about it in public, they're going to lift you off the street. You know, they've already started the bollocks with Peter Lynch. Videos have been taken down off of YouTube that were put up about him. Yes, Paulette, I've seen that. They've actually move Tommy. They are going to try and keep him safe. But will they be able to? This is the thing. You know, don't forget some of these, I'll call them gangs, rather than point out a religion or race. Some of these gangs, you know, they provide the food, they cook the food, as they were saying. You know, if they wanted to get to him, no matter where he is, they would get to him. Believe me. And the fact that he's there on a civil case, you know, nothing he's put out was racist. You know, or anything like that. And like I say, the statement that he put out absolutely shows how corrupt the court was, where he lost the libel case. He ended up having to pay out £100,000. He lost his house. He lost his marriage because of it. Because of a corrupt judge that wouldn't listen or look at the evidence. The judge hadn't even looked at the fucking film. Silenced. Yeah, what they've done, Paulette, apparently they've given him extra visitations and all sorts of stuff. But no, I don't believe he should be locked up. You know, if he was locked up for what he said and what he was putting out there, then Starmer should be in the cell next to him for what he said about the far right. Calling us thugs and hooligans when his own fucking MPs are going out there beating people to the floor. Yeah. It is an absolute proven hypocrite. Yeah, she looks like an Inuit, Jenny. All that's missing is the fucking penguin sat next to her and a polar bear.
Yeti.
Yeah, the Himalayan Yeti.
But it's absolutely amazing. It is toasted.
Working.
And it's all
yes,
stuff.
Baron. I mean, I won't say I'm not far right. Absolutely not far right. But I lean to the right of politics. The left for me is, even a slightly little bit left, is too close to communism. And we've seen what that's done to countries. You know, I mean, look at Russia. I mean, Russia started to do well when it was the Russian Federation. As soon as Putin took over, went back to the old communist ways, it's fucked. Its people are fucked. Yeah, I've always said that, Barrett. I'm not right down the middle. I'm not right down the middle. I do lean slightly to the right. I don't dress to the right or the left. I'm lucky if I reach the fucking seam in the middle. But my political swing is edging to the right. Oh, big block V8 going up the road. But there again, you got the right wing of politics with reform, or as they profess to be right wing, turning away from right wing supporters. Now, by Tice's statement the other day, Reform has lost an awful lot of supporters. There are thousands that are leaving Reform, handing in their membership, just on what Richard Tice said. Don't fair play, you know. If you want to get on as a political party, you've got to align yourself with your supporters. You've got to read the room. You've got to listen to what your supporters want you to do. And this is the problem with Starmer. He hasn't even consulted most of the Labour members, let alone even some of his own MPs. He hasn't consulted them. He hasn't listened to them. He hasn't listened to the people. He doesn't know how to read a room. The guy is just an idiot. And I still think the WEF are pulling his strings. Because these harebrained ideas, even someone as fucking dumb as he is, couldn't come up with these. You know, Reeve stood there today. The people want border security. Well, give it to us. You keep shouting about it, but we're not seeing about it. We've still got over 500 a day coming in. You know? And mainstream media hiding all the murders, hiding all the stabbings, hiding all the rapes, hiding the paedophiles that are amongst them, attacking kids. You know, this is why they want to shut down social media, because they don't want people seeing that, the truth. This is the problem. Mine's in the chat. Yeah, exactly, Loafer. Exactly. You know, no, today I thought they were hoping that the budget was going to overshadow the fact that that kiddie had been charged. Well, it hadn't. That overshadowed the budget, because there's more about that being discussed at the moment on social media than there is about the budget. I will admit, Jen, we did vote reform, but simply because they were saying the right words, we needed to vote, and this is where the problem started, were the people that didn't vote. That's how Labour got in. It's the ones that didn't vote. We didn't want the Tories. We didn't want Labour. Certainly don't want the Lib Dems. So the best option was reform. Not regretting the decision at the moment, because it hasn't really made any difference on that front. But on another one, if there was a vote again tomorrow, we would seriously think about it. Well, I would anyway. I don't know what Mrs. W feels about it, but
Sorry, I was reading something.
no, it's all right. Carry on.
What do I think about what?
About reform now.
I don't know. I really don't know, because at the end of the day, just because they've said they don't like somebody or somebody's affiliation with whatever, doesn't mean they're not right for the country. So, yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
What does FPTP stand for, Missy?
Oh.
Yeah, UKIP would be my next choice, reality. Although, as a party, I don't think they'd do a lot of good. But
You said that about reform.
Exactly. But it's someone to consider to put a vote rather than first past the post. Thank you, Missy. Yeah, I don't do all these letters instead of words. Now, that was the other thing today that I was going to say, which really pissed me off. Every statement she made today in that fucking budget, we're going to use tech. We want the new tech in this. We're going to get it involved. And obviously, they mean AI. Well, if you're starting to use tech like that, an AI. AI basically is a replacement for a human worker. So that using tech is going to put more people out of work. Now, we saw this years ago, and I'm going back to the 70s and the 80s, when the sort of the first load of robots were introduced in the car factories, car manufacturers. I was working at Leyland at the time when they first started coming in. Now they bought at Cowley, I think they bought in 2 lots of robots. One was fitting windscreens, and I can't remember what the others were doing. But those robots themselves put nearly 100 people out of work. The instant those robots started up and were being used, that was 100 people down the drain, out of a job. Some of them were offered lesser paid jobs in the factory because the robots were doing skilled work. But even those back then, the first generation, putting people out of work. Driverless cars, self-driving cars, taxis, buses. That's bus drivers out of work, taxi drivers out of work. You put someone out of work, less taxes to the taxman, more benefits to be paid out. So how they say by involving tech in industry is going to create jobs, because most of that tech isn't produced in this country. And a lot of that high tech is controlled by, again, China, who provide a lot of the components for the tech. Yeah, it was, Gary. I mean, I was actually working at MG's when they shut that down. That put a lot of people out of work, and it absolutely killed Abingdon, the town. You know, there was generations of family that worked in there.
My dad, your dad.
Yeah, my dad worked.
My granddad.
Heather's dad and granddad worked in the car factories here in the Midlands. And that killed Abingdon. I mean, I was one of the lucky ones. I hadn't been there. I'd only been there 2-3 years when it shut down. And I was young enough, although they did give me a payout. They did give me redundancy. I was luckily enough offered a job at Cowley on the production lines up there because I was classed as a skilled worker. I stuck it for, I think it was a year. And I'm like, fuck this, I'm out of here. And I went self-employed. Gary, this was the problem. It wasn't just like one person from the family worked in that job. You know, you probably had a father, 2 sons worked there. I know of one family that 2 sons worked there with their father, and the mother worked in the canteen there. So that was the whole family in one foul swoop that was out of jobs. Well, they went from 4 wages to none.
I was looking to go over and work at Leyland, so that would have put 3 of us in there.
And the redundancy payments were absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'd been there, I think it was nearly 3 years, and I walked away with nearly $2,000. Yeah, for a couple of 3 years, that wasn't bad. My father was there for over 30 years, and he only got 7. Yeah, Luton was the same with Vauxhall. Dagenham was the same with Ford. It's, yeah, the Japanese moved in, and they looked after their workers. I will say that, the Japanese. Toyota at Swindon. The benefits the Japanese gave them, decent working conditions, exercise every morning like the Japanese do. It's, but the problem was, and it sounds really degrading, but the British workers in the car factories working in the Japanese car factories had trouble working to the standard originally that the Japanese wanted and expected. I mean, I saw it myself at MG's, the way it was done. Now, if there was a dent in a car that come off a production line, it was filled with lead and resprayed if it couldn't be knocked out by the tinny. That is not the way to build new cars. Putting lead filler in them before they're even in the showrooms. And again, they were using cheap imported tin, as I call it, not steel, tin, to build the bodies. So they were rust buckets. But it's going to be interesting. I think the pressure's going to keep on Labour. I think people are going to still kick up about them. But we'll have we'll put that in there. We'll pin that to the top. If anybody wants to jump up, bear in mind, I will vet you in the back room. But, did anybody see Marty's video with Crinkle?
Oh, my Lord.
Our old friend Crinkle in London. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Poor
Absolute
little thing.
Fucking Crinkle threatening Marty Blackburn.
I'll have you.
Starmer, Rusty work in the same outfit. Boris the same.
It's worth a watch, guys, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that video with Crinkle, he made a complete ass of himself. He really did. Yeah, UFC fight. I'll be honest, it actually did look like he had a stab vest on. The way, there's no way he's bulked up like that. It looked like he had a stab vest on, and the two guys, I'll call them, that actually jumped in between Marty and his lads and Crinkle, it was blatantly obvious they were off-duty coppers. The way they were fishing with the questions, even down to the way the little fat chubby one grabbed Crinkle's arm. It was the typical hold. If Crinkle had kept going, that arm would have been straight up the back. They were obviously off-duty coppers, or even on-duty plain clothes acting pissed.
Yeah.
But they were definitely coppers. London legends. But it was the way Crinkle came across the road on his little electric scooter and just threw it on the floor. Far right off duties, yeah.
That U-turn was pretty impressive, though.
Oh, it was. I'd love to have seen him do it in front of a fucking car and get splattered.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one, Loafer.
There was nothing going down there at all.
No. Yeah, even one of the coppers took the piss out of his lazy eye. Yeah. I thought that was absolutely fucking hilarious. I was waiting for one of the cracks that Dan used to come out with. I'm going to take that fucking eye out of your socket and I'm going to skull fuck you. But it was hilarious. And every time Crinkle made a threat, he backed off. It was so funny. Take your glasses off. Yeah. Take your mask off. Take your glasses off.
Jen said, where will she find it?
It's on Marty Blackbur's
it's all right.
channel.
Loafer's put it up. My bad. Thank you, Loafer.
If I opened another, actually, if you go to Marty's channel, you can bang a link in actually if you wanted.
Okay. Not a problem. Give me a.
But yeah, I mean, Marty put it up first of all on Facebook, and I looked at it. I thought, I've got to watch that. Oh, Marty would have buried him, Gary. He would have absolutely fucking buried him. What was going on with Live Free? I mean, you know what had happened there originally. I don't know where he's gone, to be honest.
I've got the short. There we go.
Yeah, the full length one's on YouTube. It's not on. I think there is a link to it on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, that was. Usually you only hear him in live streams. Well, I don't, because I don't go in those live streams anymore. But yeah, I got to admit, it made my day. It cracked me up. Oh, pardon me. But has anybody else got their take on what went off in the budget today? Did anybody see anything that I missed? Oh, yeah, it was nice to see. Yeah, it used to be till we banned him, Gary. Reeves getting a bollocking from Mr. Speaker. Now, she's done this before, and she's got a bollocking before for it. So why she isn't being held up for to be accountable in the House for it, of publicising and releasing to the press before discussing with the people in the House, releasing the fact that she was going to make big changes in the rules, acts of Parliament or whatever, and she released it to the press before telling anybody in the House. Yeah, she did look like someone had smacked her ass, Gary, but I believe she should have been held really accountable for that, not just a bollocking, because that is a no-no in the House. Now, if anybody saw as well, who was it? It might have been one of the Tories when the other deputy speaker had a word. Because somebody asked a question and she gave them a bollocking because that person that asked the question hadn't told the person it was directed to that question was going to be asked. Now, this is what pisses me off. You're supposed to have a question time, a debate. Yet before you have that in the public's eye, you've got to provide them beforehand with that question so they can decide and make up their bullshit answer before they even go into the house. Now, that to me is wrong. That is not debate. That is not asking a question. That is pantomime.
Can I say where the exception to that really is in? If you're going to turn around to somebody and say, how many? And they need to know that figure. They need to look it up.
No, they don't. If they're involved in it, they should have that figure in front of them. They should know.
Every figure?
Yes.
No.
Absolutely,
You
they
can't know
should.
every figure on every question.
You know, this is why I've always said Prime Minister's question time is an absolute fucking farce. It's an absolute farce. It really is. Now, you look at after the budget, they're there going like fuck at each other. Now, the Tories knew what was coming. They had a list of what was in that budget before she even announced it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had the answers ready that they did. But for most of PM's question times today, it was all laughing and joking. You know? Were they trying to put him at ease before they publicised the budget? Yeah, exactly, Sorality. That's why the other MPs are there with them and the aides. You know, they should have all that information. They should be ready for any question they're going to be asked. You know, yes, at school, if you had an exam, you were given a chance to revise before anybody asked you a question. But most of the time, the teacher would ask you a question right out of the hat. 9 times out of 10, I used to get the board rubber thrown at me because I'd give them a silly fucking answer. But but that to me is ridiculous. You know, they might as well just publicise sheets of questions and answers. It's just wasting time. Become a job in Parliament, not a job for the people. Yeah. I mean, I won't disagree. There are very low paid workers that work in Westminster. Very low paid. You know, right down in the bottom of each party. There's them little wallers in the office that are there going through paperwork and shit.
You mean
They are on a
volunteers?
pittance. Yeah, a lot of them are volunteers. Yeah. But and this is why, when they're in public, I've always said, if you see one of these politicians in public, ask questions because they're unprepared for them. That's why they can't answer them. And they do the same with mainstream media. Mainstream media know they're not going to answer the questions they're given. They're going to go into a load of bullshit. They're going to go into a statement. Yet they still continually ask them. And I've always said, if I sat down and I had opportunity to interview a politician, the first time he went into a load of bollocks like that, or her, I would say, that's it, bye-bye, fuck off out the studio, you can't answer the questions I want you to answer, so there's no point in you being here. Yet mainstream media do it with them all the time. They try and fool them, they try and make it look like they're asking the right questions, but they're still not getting any answers. Sky News are the worst for it. That silly fucking, oh, what's her face? Beth Rigby, whatever her fucking name is.
No, G. Rigsby.
Yeah.
Hanging.
Yeah, she tries to put on the posh accent. Sounds like a South Londoner. Fuck it.
Hanging offence.
They are missing her. They're a bumbling mess. I mean, when that old dear called out Starmer in the pub, the look on his face, he just had no answer. He had no comeback. Because she was absolutely telling the truth and he didn't like it. He can't answer. And he wouldn't do in public like that anyway, because he'd be too frightened of making himself look a dick. But, well, sitting there looking with the dumb expression on his face, he made himself look like a dick anyway. But
that's what I mean. If they haven't got their bodies to hand them the answer on a plate, they don't know.
yeah, that's what Mrs. W just said, Missy. No G Rigsby. I mean, they don't even get asked questions when they come to my door. I mean, Labour, the first words from me was, "Who are you from?" They said, "Who are they from?" And the words that just came out of my mouth was, "Oh, the fucking hell, no." And I just shut the door in their face. And that was literally what I did. That was when they came round for the local elections. He probably doesn't, Jen, to be honest. Because a lot of it is like mainstream media. They're shielded from it. They don't get to look at the papers. They don't get to look at the polls. Literally, they work on what their underlings tell them. And they control what they see and what they hear. No, I'll give him that, Missy, and he will catch the interviewers out. He doesn't always answer the question, but he absolutely makes them look like an idiot.
Oh, his comebacks are...
Yeah, his comebacks are brilliant. Intel Lady Loafer, she's brilliant. With her parodies of fucking, what's her face, the Ginger Growler.
And I'll say, Farage on YouTube is very up to date on the button with what he's releasing on his daily videos. I don't always watch them, but
that's it. Angela Rayner, no brainer, isn't it? Yeah. I do watch most of hers. She is quite funny, and she's very clued up as well with what she says. If you look behind the comedy of it, she's pretty clued up about what she's saying. More so than some of these, what I call fake channels on YouTube now. Yes, Flyby. I used to have one of my dogs. I used to just call him the same as John Wayne used to call his, just call him Dog. That wasn't his kennel name, but that was the name I used to use for him, and it was the name I used for training with him. Just used to call him Dog.
I've got a toy dog upstairs, and his name is Stay. He only learned one command.
Like my cat, she was called Wazza. Because that's all she did was eat and waz. Proper name was Puss in Booties, but shit eyes. No Holly tonight either. I've noticed.
She'll have forgotten what day it is.
Yeah, she's probably having a rest. But yeah, some of these fake channels that use the electronic voices and that, you know, they're using clickbait on the thumbnails, no relevant to the video at all. Most of the time they're behind with the news, and they try and blow it up as if it's something it isn't. I just haven't got time for them. There are one or two that use the text to voice or whatever it is, the AI. And they are British channels, and they do put the right stuff out. One of them, I can't remember his name now. He actually does live streams as well, and he's usually pretty on point. But as I said the other week, I've seen some there that are from Thailand, even one from Russia, Spain, France, Germany.
As far as I know, Gary, Holly's fine. We went out. We did ladies' what lunch last week.
Yeah, Loafer. I mean, I everybody keeps on at me. Do some decent thumbnails that really grabs your attention. Well, personally, I prefer to either put something that's quite humorous, but I always try and make sure it's connected to the content, the proper content in the video, not using it as a clickbait. You know, in the old days, you'd put a pair of tits on there and like, right, now I got your attention. But no, yes, it does draw in a few more views if you put quite an interesting thumbnail up. But you know, I prefer to go down the taking the piss route or a comedy type thing. And I don't use AI on mine. Anything that's made up, not even Photoshop, it's a paint thing that I don't know what you'd call it, where you have to fuck around for about 5 minutes to even make a match to put another picture in the picture and what have you.
Paint 3D.
Paint 3D, that's it. There again, I still don't know how to use half of it, so put crinkle on the thumbnail. No, Gary, no. Normally, I don't even mention the clown like some of the other ones in the drama streams and that. I just can't be doing with them, mate. I don't need them in my life.
I just love the way he's there, and he's obviously not a tall bloke because he's going, I'm going to have you, like a child pointing up at an adult.
Yeah, but don't forget Marty's well over 6 foot.
I don't care.
He's quite a tall lad.
That only made it all the more amusing.
Certainly not, Gary. No rainbows. The only unicorn that I've ever put up was the wrinkly unicorn with the 2 horns and the big fat ass.
Picture of me then.
Yes, well, it probably is, mate. But with the way my brain works now,
he's learned that one.
I have trouble. Yeah, but I am going to have to change it because it's from next month, from the whatever shop, Microsoft store, whatever it comes from. It's going to be unsupported.
That just means it won't update. You'll be happy. No changes.
No changes.
No more changes ever.
What are we doing on time? 8:30. Well, I will keep going till 9 o'clock, people. There's no way I'm going to make it till 10. As I said, I got no sleep at all last night. All right, Jen. Take care, sweetheart. I'll take it you'll be doing a live Friday.
As long as nothing,
Pops
no
up
shit
in the
hits the
meantime.
fan or anything between now and
Yeah,
then.
so we might see you Friday, Jen. No, Jenny. But yeah, is anybody, like I said, has anybody else got anything they want to bring up about the budget? I mean, I haven't got many more notes here that I wrote on it. And to be honest, I wrote them down that quick. I can't read half of what I fucking wrote here anyway. Oh, pardon me. They didn't announce it today, but I know for a fact there are going to be road tax changes next April. in particular the road tax on EVs. And also EVs are going to be charged under the ULEZ in London. There was nothing about PIP, Gary. I've actually got the form to apply for mine now, so I've put it off for so long, hoping that I wouldn't get as bad as I'm getting, but it's got to the point now where I've got to. They will make it harder for people to claim it. She did actually mention today the fact that they will pass an act or a law where the DWP can ask a bank for your bank details. They will be able to look into your bank accounts. Now, once they've got the DWP doing that, just because you're not claiming any benefits doesn't mean that you'll be spared it. At any point, they'll be able to look into anybody's bank accounts before long. Now, they're doing it under the guise of stopping benefit fraud. But absolutely, I believe benefit fraud is a big problem in this country. Now, Reeves specifically said they will be targeting the gangs that commit benefit fraud. But as we know, it won't stop there. Doesn't matter, Gary, if they pass a law where they're allowed to do it. They won't initially be able to look into your bank, but the banks will be instructed, and I know this because they've already discussed it. The banks, all right, Loafer, take care, mate. The banks will be instructed to look out for certain things, certain transactions. Obviously, AI will be in place if these transactions go on. They'll be flagged up, and that's when they'll be investigated. They probably will have to get a warrant of some description, I don't know, to be able to look into them. But the banks will be instructed to inform the WDP on these flags and unusual happenings. Now, we've already seen similar things put in place already. As you know, you get to a certain level where you can't walk in and put a certain amount of cash in without asking questions. If you want money out of your bank over a certain level, you've got to jump through hoops and tell them what it's for. And there's people that have actually had the withdrawals turned down, which to me is wrong. It's your money. You should be allowed to draw it out without giving what it's for. You know, oh, well, we're going to buy a car. They want to know what car you're buying. It won't be long before they want to know what registration it's on it. You know?
Can I, one thing you haven't mentioned, and it may affect some people out there, was on the carers allowance.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That you will be allowed to earn 16 hours at minimum wage, whatever that works out to and still be eligible to claim for your carers allowance.
Yeah.
So if you've got a good job, yeah, you can't do 16 hours. Fuck that.
Yeah, the allowances. Did they put it up, or was it 60? I thought they put it up to 18 hours.
No, they put it up to 16 hours at minimum wage.
Okay. Do you know anything about cryptocurrency? I don't, Flyby. It's something I've never looked into. I've never been interested in.
I've always been wary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, what was the main one that was out there?
Bitcoin.
Your Bitcoin would be stored, your wallet, on a hard drive. What happens if you lose that hard drive? or that hard drive gets stolen. Now, this has happened in the past. A bloke lost his hard drive, lost millions. A bloke actually forgot, for some reason, his password to get into it, his Bitcoin wallet. And as far as I know, he's still got that wallet, but can't get into it because he can't remember the password.
There's an episode of Big Bang where they're looking for the laptop that has the access to the Bitcoin or whichever coin it was.
Yeah.
Because they've suddenly remembered it's there and, yeah, they need to get at it.
Yeah, exactly, Shirley. I mean, yeah, they can be broke, Gary. Absolutely. I mean, yes, I'll admit there are times when I do use a debit card. But wherever I can, I will use cash. And I always make sure I've got some cash in my wallet. If there isn't any in my wallet, I very kindly ask Mrs. W to give me some.
Which she dutifully does.
Which she does.
Occasionally I ask him for some as well, because I haven't been.
Yeah.
And I want a couple of quid, and but he asks for it back the next day. Have you been to the bank?
Yes, Shirley, that is the thing. It can be hidden. Yeah. Now, what it is, Gary, because at the moment, I mean, Heather's going after a job, but she should be starting middle of November. Only part-time, working from home. But at the moment, we are claiming benefits. Now, I claim, obviously, sick benefit, health benefits. They wrote me off about 2 years ago after the stroke.
I wrote him off before that.
But because it's a joint claim, they won't split it up and put it into 2 separate bank accounts. They won't put mine in my account and Heather's in hers.
So I get it all.
So what we do is, because Heather's always paid the bills from her account, she lived in this house, paid the rent, the bills, long before I even appeared on the scene. So we left it at that, and the money goes into her account because she pays all the bills and does the main shopping from hers. It has caused me grief in the past, not for the fact that I can't have any money, she won't give me any. It's the fact that whenever you go and you've got to give ID, they always want 2 forms or 3 forms of ID. And one of the forms they always ask for is a utility bill. Well, obviously, I don't get any utility bills in my name.
You haven't even got a mobile phone going out.
Yeah, even my mobile phone, since I switched over to the new provider, because Heather did all the switching over for me, that gets paid from her account as well now.
It was easier. The money goes in my account.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do have problems with proving who I am. Yes, you can use bank statements, but that means I've got to get a statement, photocopy it, whatever.
But if you're using bank statements, quite often it's got to be an account that you've got a wage being paid into.
Yeah. They've got to see activity on it. There was one, I can't remember where I used it now. There was one that asked me to take a photograph, I think it was, or scan my IDs.
Is it when you were trying to hire a van?
Yeah, it could have been a car hire, actually. You're right, yeah. Because we had that trouble last time. We had to put it in your name and put me down as a named driver, didn't you? I said, well, I've got a passport, but it's well out of date. And they actually turned around and said, well, as long as it's got your picture and your current address on it. I said, well, it hasn't even got my current address on it. I said, but it's got my picture and my name. And they actually accepted it. I mean, the bloody thing's probably, I think it's 20 years out of date, very nearly. Or it's good 12, 15 years out of
I was
date.
going to say.
But they actually accepted it. And it's not a very good picture anyway. I would love to leave this country, Gary. But there's very few countries out there now. There's a few states in America, as we've said before, where, you can more or less go and live a free life. But the land of the free isn't the land of the free anymore over there, even.
I would not want to go anywhere.
It never
Trump
was.
Might be in charge.
It's... Oh, yeah. Yes, Bobby, cash is king. It always has been. The thing is, it is easier to commit fraud with cash. The main reason that the government would like cash, plastic only, is so they can monitor it, for crime gangs, laundering and stuff like that. But I can't see him getting rid of it, to be honest. I really can't. They will do at some point in the future when we end up in the dystopian world.
And what happens when the power cut happens or the internet goes down?
Yeah.
And you can't make a payment in a shop for your shopping.
Well, people have had that issue already. They haven't been able to get their wages. Their wages haven't gone through.
The other week, Iceland had an issue. Everybody, the cash machine was handing out tens and fivers because everybody had gone to get cash because they needed to pay for the groceries and the machines had gone down.
Yeah, same with fuel. And then you got the other implications, like some of the supermarket petrol stations. Doesn't matter how much you're putting in your tank, you put your card in, they're going to try and take £100 off you to start with. And then a couple of days later, you get back how much you didn't spend. Well, that's wrong. That's taking money under false pretenses. They're earning interest on your money while they've got it, even if it's just for a day. If someone asks for a £5 and I put a £5 note in their hand, there's no fees to pay. The shop doesn't lose out because don't forget, if you use a card to pay a £5, the shop doesn't get a £5. They have to pay fees on the cards. Yeah, Missy, I literally, and Heather's the same, neither of us go anywhere without any cash in our pockets. You imagine going somewhere by train. Something happens on the train. You can't get back on the train. You've got no cash in your pocket. Computers or the internet's down. How are you going to pay to get home? Yeah, it will be, Flyby. It'll be like China. Your every move, every payment, everything you buy, everything you eat, everything you drink, even your face will be monitored. Put a foot out of place, you'll be penalised. Yeah, well, this is the problem. This is why they don't like cash only, Missy, with the government. Is because if you drop someone a £5 or a tenner for doing something, they don't declare that money. The government can't prove that they got that money.
Can't tax them on it.
They can't tax them on it. There's the big word. It's all about the tax and ripping people off. Again, there was no really anything brought up about the energy and water companies today, which I was quite surprised at, being as everything's going on. As I said, they probably won't mention the cap on the energy, on gas and electric. Simply because there goes my throat. Simply because the suppliers, with the way the cap is, still have scope to put your bills up. They can still charge you more and still stay under the cap.
Because the majority of them are not charging to the limit.
No. But because there was nothing said about it today, or nothing I've heard about it, there may be paperwork coming out, other stuff that they're doing in the next few days that she didn't talk about. Obviously, there always is. But you've got the water companies now are asking for billions of pounds. I don't believe they should be given a fucking penny. They should be taking the money back off the big people in the companies that have been earning the big bonuses, that have earning the big profits and sharing it out. Had a few trick-or-treaters and I felt bad. I had nothing for them. We don't entertain them, Stuart.
It's not Halloween till tomorrow.
And to be honest, I don't think the kids should be going around knocking on people's doors.
Especially when it's not the right day.
Fair enough. Me and the missus are an age where nothing's going to get pulled over our eyes. But, you've only got to get some of these, shall I say, feral 14, 15-year-olds. And we have had them here.
Oh, yeah.
Just put a paper mask on. They don't want sweets. They just want money. They knock on a little old lady's door. The little frail old lady opens the door. There's nothing to them stop them seizing the opportunity to push their way in. Any reasonable parent is going to accompany the kids if their young one's doing it. But it's not an English tradition. It's an American thing. It never was an English tradition. It was one that was imported from America. We used to have a tub of sweets here, but 9 times out of 10, Heather would put a tub of sweets together to offer them.
And Roger would eat them.
And I would sit there for the next week getting as fat as fuck because I'd eat them all because nobody knocked on the door. So we don't bother. For a chocoholic, Missy, I've been doing really, really good. I know I've been putting too much weight on where, because of my breathing and other problems now, I can't get out and walk like I used to. The little bit of walking I did do used to keep the weight off me. And I've actually been piling the weight on now. I've actually got to look in to a start monitoring what I eat. Because I'm just putting on far too much weight. Yeah, the Americans do, Missy. They go all out over everything. Okay, they're entertaining, but look at some of these houses that get done up with all the lights and the music and a light show. It looks nice, but that costs a hell of a lot of money. It's a computer setup thing, and it's like the people over here that set up the garden full of Christmas decorations and lights all over the house on the outside. Yes, it looks Christmassy, and the kids like to see it. But the way things are now, with the donations they get, they'll be lucky if they cover their electric bill with the lights. Well, we're quite lucky here, Gary, because we've got blackout curtains. So if we turn the light off in the kitchen and shut that door behind me there, they can't see any light coming from the house anyway. So it looks like there's nobody in.
And the doorbell has been taken down.
And the doorbell, yeah, it doesn't work anyway. It's
on the windowsill.
I know it's not plugged in. So
The buttons on the windowsill.
Back in the day, we asked for money, tied in with.
Oh yeah, money for the guy.
Yeah,
Buy
so
you pie forks, but that was our thing, not America.
we when we were kids doing it, we never went round knocking on people's door. We used to sit on the street corner with it in a little cart or a pram, or usually the old soapbox trolley, the cart.
Between the council estate and the pub.
Yeah, or go and sit outside a pub, and you just sit there, and if people wanted to give you money for it, they gave you money. You didn't knock on the door asking for it. No, not in my area. We didn't anyway. Yeah, you used to get one or two drunks trying to set light to the fucker in your trolley, but but you could do that back then. It was safe. You know, I mean, my family were never pub going. But a lot of my mates, you know, they used to sit outside the pub while Dad was inside having a few pints. He'd bring them out a soft drink and a packet of crisps or a Mars bar or something, you know.
Salt and shake.
Yeah. I mean, personally, at 14, I walked into the pub and asked for a pint of light and bitter, and they served me. So I was always happy near a pub when I was drinking. They nearly banned me at one point. When I actually went in to celebrate my 18th birthday, you know, like, well, you've been drinking here for 4 years. What the fuck? You know what I mean?
I had 3 18th birthdays in the same pub.
I was playing in one of the Premier Darts leagues in the area back home at 16. Yeah, being on fire is not very good, is it, Gary? I've been there, mate. It's even worse when you're in a car moving at like 150 mile an hour and you've got to stop the bastard to get out.
Yeah, I do that one sometimes, Missy.
I like some of the memes on Facebook. There was one there, a bowl full of broccoli. Please take one. What I'd like to do is go around the car boot sales, get a load of old gin traps, and set them hanging from the wall with the sweet on the plate in the middle. You know, take one if you dare.
I want to go around James Martin's house because he's got handmade chocolate covered honeycomb outside his house for the kids tomorrow. I fancy a bit of that.
Yeah, this is the thing with me, Flyby. Now, I will say I don't always give to charity. In fact, I very rarely do anymore, of any type. But when I used to, it was because I went and gave it. If they come knocking on the door for it, they get fucked off. Charity is a voluntary thing. If you want to give to charity, you're going to search out a charity that you prefer and you're going to give the money. Knocking on the door and asking for it, I don't think should happen, to be honest. Some people might say that's wrong, but in my view, that's the way it should be. You know, it's comes down to when the police knock on your door. We'd like to invite you to a voluntary interview at the police station. My first answer to anything that they say like that is, do you understand the English language? If they say yes, I say, right. You've given me an invitation. I am rejecting the invitation. I don't want to come. Voluntary means you do something willingly. I don't do anything voluntary. So please go away. They never even used to do that round our way back home, Paulette. They would stand out in the road and they would sing. And if you thought they did a job, you'd go out and you'd give them the money. You'd make a donation. We never had them knocking on the door.
I'm sorry, I couldn't do that when I went carol singing. We lived on a main road.
Yeah.
If I'd have stood in the middle of the road, the people wouldn't have.
Yeah, but stood out on the footpath. I was just saying, in the middle of the road as an instance, you know.
Just saying, we knocked.
Yeah, I don't give any now stuff. 9 times out of 10, as we know, it's most of the money doesn't actually go to the charity. There are 1 or 2 that it does, but there's always somebody taking their cut. And I don't even go in for the poppy thing. As Paz said the other day, and I've always said the same, when you're paying a CEO 100 grand a year and you've got a bank with 7 million or 70 million, I should say, sat in it as a backup pot, then you shouldn't be coming round knocking on people's doors asking them to give. And everybody says, well, the Legion is a good charity for the veterans. I know veterans that have needed help. I'm not disagreeing, they do help veterans. But I have known veterans where they've been turned down flat by them for no good reason. And one of the biggest disagreements I had, I used to be a member of the British Legion years ago. I had to be to play darts in there. And I walked in one day to play darts, and they asked me to take my cap off I was wearing. And I just looked at him. I said, well, why is that? He said, it's an insult to the Queen. I said, well, is she in the house? Is she at the bar? He said, no. I said, well, why the fuck do I need to take my hat off then? I'm like, fuck you, stuff your membership. Find another darts player. Hope you make Mrs. W's coffee voluntary in the morning. The first one, Missy, yes, I do.
Second one's under duress.
Second one is usually under duress, or I'm trying to get her up out of bed for some reason.
Because he's lonely.
But yeah, I've got nobody down here to take the piss out of and annoy. But usually I'll relent and I will. You know, it's usually when I need to go to the toilet. While I'm up here, I suppose I better ask her if she wants to know. Yeah, so what I don't agree with now, as you know, my sister was full screw. She left as the rank of captain. She got a huge payout when she left, when she came out. In fact, she got enough of a payout to pay off her mortgage. And she got more or less a full salary pension. And she also got employed as a civvy doing her old job with the army on 60 plus grand a year. And then I see mates of mine that were in the services on their ass, can't even afford to buy a fucking meal, can't keep a roof over their heads. That is, to me, very, very wrong. When the person that is giving the orders comes away with just about everything they need, and the ones that were putting their lives on the front line and doing the grunting are shit upon from a great height at every tuck in turn. That's one of the reasons I don't like that. Yeah, a penny mounts up, Stuart. You know what I mean? I mean, you look. It used to be a standard thing with wages. They used to round your wages up to the nearest pound, or they used to at British Leyland when they were paying cash anyway, years ago. Now they did it in one of the tanneries I used to work in. Good evening, Gordo. We're nearly finished, mate.
What do you call this?
Late on parade, bud. That's 4 laps of the square with your rifle above your head. No, in the tannery, they were pretty good. They always said that they wouldn't round your money down to the nearest
It's illegal.
pound. What they always did, they made it up. And yeah, sometimes, it was more than a few pennies. But they said, well, that's just the way it goes. It makes it easier for us. You'll all get swings and roundabouts. Sometimes it'll be down, sometimes it will be up. But in the end, it eventually levels itself out, which fair enough, But there were ways around. Yeah, I remember one fraud that used to be quite rife in British Leylands. They used to put a staple through your wage packet, and you could count your notes in the corner. And what you used to do was get a little stick, cut a slot in it, pull the staple out, slide the stick in the top of the envelope without opening it, slide it across a note, roll it up, pull it out. So when you count the notes in the corner, it was a 5 or a 10 a short. And they cottoned on to that one in the end. I mean, that was rife at British Leyland. Originally, that was winding a note. Oh, fair enough, Gordo. Fair enough, mate. Yes, mate, I played at county level. I've even played at Wembley in the News of the World. I got as far as the semi-finals. Quarter-final. Sorry, not semi-final, quarter-final. But because I didn't have a collar on my shirt, I just had a plain T-shirt, they wouldn't let me play on stage. So I got beaten by Stephen Lord playing out the back. Yeah, I used to play Super League and county level. I never had a nickname when I played darts, mate, but my original nickname was Psycho to most of my friends. And in later years, in the mountain biking world, they named me Fat Nuts. I've actually got a photo somewhere, Gordo. I'll dig it out of me holding up the big county singles trophy. It's about the size of the FA Cup, very similar shape as well. I gave Bobby George a good hammering in Plymouth. He didn't like that. It was only an expedition, actually. It went round all the pubs down in Cornwall. And what you did, you put your house champion forward after playing games, obviously, the winner. And then it went to the town. And once you've got to the final of the town, you were invited to Plymouth to play against Bobby George. Well, the lads knew straight away that, why bother playing all these games of darts? We'll just send Rog, you know what I mean? Now, I'd already played Bobby in a few county matches and a few tournaments. Beat him a couple of times. He beat me more often than I beat him. But it came for my turn to play him. As soon as we walked in, I saw him, and he said, "Oh, you know, mate," he said, "I played against you before, and I said, "Yeah." I said, "And I beat you." And he gave me permission. That was it. Courage was sponsoring the night. Courage Beers. And he gave me permission to put my beer on his account at the bar because they were paying him to be there. So I gave him an absolute thrashing on stage. And then he got really, really pissed off with me when I realised that I'd put over 300 quid on his account with Courage because I was buying beers for all the lads that come up with me in the minibus. But yeah, I did give him a good hammering. But I'll dig that photo out, Gordo, if I remember it, for next week. I might even try and dig it out for Friday for Mrs. W's live.
You gate crashing again then?
Yeah, I'll be here, I expect, if I'm not dead. We'll see. Yeah, same with me, Gordo, unfortunately. But I have still got my darts upstairs in the homemade leather case that I made from.
Mine should be in a box in the loft, but I know they're not.
Right, I am going to call that it, guys. I've started to yawn, and as you can actually hear, my throat is starting to play me up a bit now. But that's because you lot won't come up on a panel, see? Leave me here fucking talking. But hopefully I made a bit of sense to those that needed it from the budget. As I say, it's not as bad as what people were making out, although it wasn't that good either in some respects. But I think there is a lot more to come from the left, from Comrade Starmer and his little gang there. And I think they will hammer us in more ways. But I will keep an eye on this case from Southport, because I think there's going to be a lot of trouble over that. Now, as last time, I'm going to say this with honesty. If you see anything anywhere that says come here and protest and what have you, check it out, look into it, investigate it. As I've said before, they tried to fit people up by putting out false information, telling people to turn up at solicitors' offices that were to do with the immigration and the immigrants. They were trying to get people to turn up at hotels. Well, that information was all planted. It wasn't genuine, and if people had took notice of it, they could have got themselves into an awful lot of trouble. So just be wary of that.
Well, some of them did.
Yeah, some of them did get into trouble for it. So be very, very wary when somebody says there's a protest going on. Check into it, see who's organising it. If possible, talk to the organisers and then make your mind up whether you're going or not. But if you are going protesting anywhere, keep it peaceful. We've seen what they're trying to do to us. You've seen how they've been branding us. Keep it peaceful, toe the line, they can't touch you. But until then, as always, guys, till the next time, stay safe. Oh, there won't be a video tomorrow, by the way. Definitely won't be one. I've said that twice this week already and done one, but definitely there won't be tomorrow. But until then, as always, stay safe, stay strong, and stay free. That's good night from him.
It's good night from me. See you Friday.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.